Let's face it, rules take the fun out of everything. Rules and regulations make it so that we can't just do whatever the hell we want without consequences. Without laws, you could take anything you wanted from someone else. You could drive as fast as you want without a seatbelt. You could also hurt whoever you want. But rules also protect us from a lot of things. They ensure a standard of morality for ordinary people. Without them, our society would plunge into chaos. But let's imagine, just for the next few minutes, what life would be like in a society without rules. Today, Life's Biggest Questions asks, what if the world had no laws? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that asks the questions everyone else is too afraid to ask. I'm Charlotte Jobre and this is where I ask you to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and notification bell. Before I get into this video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our other channel, Inform Overload, where we make news more entertaining. I also host Inform Overload, so if you need a place to get your news on YouTube, make sure you check it out. Alright, let's get into this video. What if the world had no laws? It's a pretty interesting question to say the least. Basically, the world as we know it would cease to exist. Laws have been around since the beginning of time. There might be short periods of time where a society is not governed by law, but for the most part, every historical period had them. Law is a system of rules, enforced through a set of institutions. Law is a system that regulates and ensures that individuals or a community adhere to the will of a state. Each state lays out their main laws in their constitutions. But what if there were no laws? In 350 BC, Aristotle said, "The rule of law is better than the rule of any individual." Without laws, people that are normally needed to make society function wouldn't go to work. There would be no one paying taxes to the government, so there would be no government programs that take care of things like garbage. Essentially, the street would become one big dump. There would be no sewage or water supplies because there would be no government agency making sure water supplies are safe for drinking. At the same time, there would be no one keeping criminals in jail. Murderers and rapists would be free and living amongst us. For a time, it would be complete and utter anarchy. If no one went to work, then no one would be delivering the essential needs for life. If there was no means to get people food, medicine, or other goods, the economy would collapse. Depending on where people live, the effect of an economic collapse would be different. When the economy collapsed in Argentina in 2001, and after it recovered, the government found evidence of people who were trying to survive in rural areas, but many of those people were found dead in their bunkers, their supplies looted, and their defenses struggling to keep away criminals and gangs. In a world without laws, people would be forced to grow their own food and keep livestock, but then what's to stop people from stealing that food and livestock? Not much. Private farms would have to be well protected to prevent thefts. Those who do manage to steal from these private farmers would sell the food at outrageous prices. The problem of finding food would be even worse in cities. People who live in cities rely on imports from airports, highways, harbors, and railways, which wouldn't be functioning in a society without laws. So how would people who lived in cities get their food? Simple. They wouldn't. For a time, people would raid abandoned stores for supplies, and this would sustain people for a time, but not forever. Let's not forget that going out in public in a society without laws is dangerous. People would live out their days in hiding and only come out at night under cover of darkness to look for food. But accessible food that isn't being replenished would run out eventually, especially if everyone was taking it and fighting for it. After there was no food left, mass starvation would occur. Similarly, shops and stores can't operate in a society where everyone is armed and looking to steal things. For this reason, most shopping would have to be done online. But then, many thefts would still take place. How could items be delivered if there were no laws? People would still need to work, to package and deliver items, but without laws preventing them from stealing, what would stop them from doing so? Nothing. Most people probably wouldn't go to work in the first place. Essentially, without laws, a society can't function. There would be no police or courts to enforce those laws. Hospitals would become very dangerous places. For this reason, many people would have basic medical training in case of an accident or attack occurs. In a society without laws, everyone would have combat training and be armed with weapons because there would be no one to protect civilians. Essentially, in this world, guns would rule, and whoever had the most guns would be the leader. Just because there are no laws, that doesn't mean there wouldn't be a hierarchy and some sort of social structure. People would break off into tribes because they are seeking peace, but the strongest, most powerful, and most feared would become the leaders of those tribes. Mafias and criminal organizations would hold the most power. They already operate without fear of repercussion. Imagine what life would be like if there were no laws. In exchange for some form of taxes, the leader of these tribes would provide protection and food. In some way, there would still be laws, but they would be crafted by those most powerful. There would be no rational justice, and repercussions for breaking the rule of law would be much harsher. If you stole from someone, for example, the consequences would be torture or even death. At the same time, the weak people in a society would be the most vulnerable. I'm talking about the sick and the elderly, who would most likely be left behind to die. In a lawless society, everyone fends for themselves. One can't afford to take care of someone who's sick or old when you can barely take care of yourself. For the most part, people don't want to be living in fear all the time. Some sort of structure would take shape because social order is necessary for survival. What do you think would happen if the world had no laws? Let us know in those comments. For now, I'm Charlotte Jobre, and you've been watching Life's Biggest questions. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love the playlist that's clickable on the screen right now. Make sure notifications are turned on by clicking the bell, and we will see you in a future episode of Life's Biggest Questions.